Hello, pipeline folks. Welcome to today's The Pipeline Conference event produced by parent organization Digital Production Pipeline Association, or DPPA for short. I'm Fran Zandanella Benjamin, founder of the Pipeline Conference. This is our second event in our location-based entertainment series. This talk is location-based entertainment, the 4-Pipeline Challenge, or the Plural Pipeline Challenge. We have 2 more events in this series, so we'd like you to save the dates for May 5th and May 27th. May 5th's talk will be Strategy for Pipelines R&D, and May 27th's talk is the Future of Experiential Services. I also want to mention that we are planning another pipeline day of BOFs at SIGGRAPH, and we are aiming for Monday, but we won't know what we will get until SIGGRAPH tells us what day we get. And also we want to tell you to save the date for September 17th. We are planning an in-person TPC pipeline conference in Vancouver, British Columbia for September 17th. So I will post, if you're interested, you could sign up, and if you want to help us create that, we'd love to have your help. Please join our mailing list to stay up to date on upcoming events, and I'll be posting that in our chat a little bit later. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will answer them when we get to the end of our talk. And now I'd like to welcome our executive host, Marc Petit from Moment Factory. Marc, go ahead and turn your video on.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Tonight, we're picking up a thread where we started on March 24th with Will Muto from ILM. His session was an introduction to technical director for special venues. It was a fantastic kickoff into this world, into this series. And if you missed it, no worries. The recording is going to be on the TPC YouTube channel very, very shortly. A quick word on me before we get going. My name is Marc Petit. I'm hosting you from wonderful sunny Paris today. Some of you may remember me from my time at Audet, where I spent 10 years running and managing the media entertainment division. And after that, I spent 8 years at Epic Games, growing Unreal Engine inside and outside of gaming, focusing on virtual production, animation, architecture, and manufacturing. And these days, I'm also kind of retired, but also a board member at a few companies, including Moment Factory, for whom I'm a board member and a technology consultant. You will hear about the Exagora platform in a minute. I like to think of me as, the most inside of the outsiders at Moment Factory, or the most outside of the insiders, which gives me a bit of a distance to talk about the work, and it'll help me keep Arnaud Grosjean honest during this presentation. So the questions on the table: how do you actually design a production pipeline for location and experiential content? What breaks at scale? What's different when your render target is not a movie screen, but a forest trail, a basilica, or an airport terminal? And that's what we're going to cover today. And to dig into this, we've had a great specialist today with us, Arnaud Grosjean. He's the software architect at Moment Factory.
Hello, everyone.
He'll take the time to introduce the studio, the work, and then walk us through how they think about pipelines, what's hard, and what actually the pipeline actually solved for Moment Factory. So Arnaud, c'est à toi.
Thank you, Marc, for the introduction. So I'm Arnaud Grosjean. I've been in the industry for 16 years now, and soon 10 years at the Moment Factory. So I'm going to get my T-shirt in August. I started as a project system architect. Then I moved to the innovation, and then now part of the pipeline team. So I first heard about TPC, and we met with Dennis at SIGGRAPH Vancouver last summer. So really happy to be here today with you. My talk is called 4-Pipeline Problem, and it's going to tell you a bit about my daily challenges as an engineer at Moment Factory. Quick intro about Moment Factory. So we are a multidisciplinary multimedia studio based in Montreal, and we have 6 worldwide offices. We evolved in the location-based entertainment market, meaning that we design immersive experiences that are bound to physical space, where we orchestrate a variety of media, video, lighting, sound, spatial design, interactivity. We do it in public is our motto. And it's also our anniversary this year, 25 years, and over the course of which we delivered 600 production, and 80 of them are actively supported. Our work has a wide range of application, and we tend to split our offer between the custom experiences. This production, they have a wide range of operation time, like the concert and show can range from one night to maybe transportation. It can range for 10 plus years of support. And this is those custom experiences are the root of Moment Factory. A little more than 2 years ago, we started running out our Moment Factory originals, which are more B2C, like custom is more B2B. This part is made of turnkey products. It's our creative IP, and under the hood, our technological stack. So we develop, Mark mentioned it, a technological platform named Hexagora internally. This experience happen in a variety of environment, can happen outdoor. So like Lumina is, it takes place in forests, natural environment, or indoor. Aura is a series of projection shows that we do in heritage sites. So that I know that most of the TPC people comes from, most of them comes from CG, animation, or film. That's the LBE series. So I wanted to have a small intro to highlight some of the key difference between CG Pipeline and Moment Factory's work. So while I prepare this talk, I try not to overlap too much with Will Motto's talk from ILM. So I hope it's going to be a nice complement. So the first thing I want to share, which is for me a huge difference, is that we are basically building the cinema. So you make the movie and you imagine the cinema at the same time. The venue is new each time. You also got to provide the projection system and the cabin. There is no 16:9. We'll cover that. Basically, you explode that canvas into space, so you redefine that content canvas almost each time with exotic shapes and mega resolutions. And each element has a strong relationship with the other. The content, the system, and the environment are kind of intricated. And the second, I call that the human in the loop. So in the cinema, you have a defined seating, and we prefer to talk about flow and throughput. There is no ideal camera in the sense that to the difference of a cinema where you expect all the public to have kind of the same experience, same point of view. You cannot predefine all the points of view that are going to happen for your spectators. The body scale also is important, like the human is really in the center of that, meaning that my relationship as an individual to the size of the screen has a meaning and needs to reflect in the content in a way. And also, it's deeply multi-personas. So you need to take care, of course, designing for the spectator, but also you need to take care of integrators, for instance, like how engineers can deploy code, how artists can ship or modify content on the spot. And also the operator, because if today the cinema comes with a standard user manual, the LB doesn't. So how much your customer can champion to maintain installation over time. You need to offer remote control. You need to offer remote monitoring. And also, you may want to leave the door open for the customers to make the content evolve at their will, meaning reschedule the content catalog or reskin existing media, ingest their own media, which is going to turn. Sorry, did someone talk? Oh, no. Which essentially is going to turn the experience into a programmable space. The next is the interactive space. So you imagine the movie becomes a video game. So every previous point, mega resolution, odd shape Canva, human in the loop, that everything stays valid. But now you have to cook the pixels live on 16K. So you need infrastructure such as cluster rendering. You need to think about what is the gamepad. You need to build space awareness. You need to build that with sensors of connected objects. And you're going to also have code that's going to run 24/7 on site. So you're not delivering big pixels anymore, but you deliver runtime. So the operation gets more critical and requires a more complex tool chain to operate. And yet there is no actual container. We don't have the MPEG standard for interactive delivery. So you have to build your container. You have to gonna make your own PlayStation to run it. Last is quality control. So when CG people want to preview their shot, they go to the review room. And for us, basically, there is no review room. The site is unique. It's far, and it's either under construction or currently operating. So in the middle, you have a small phase that is called integration. And this is where you have to tackle all the challenges. So it's really difficult to solve complex problem before or after the delivery.
All right, so Arnaud, if you allow me,
yeah.
Did you guys identify some specific trends in the LBE right now from Moment Factory?
So the main trend is everything bigger, like more FPS, more pixel, more bit depth, more interactive. But what we see as a big trend is also the fact that we need to find ways to abstract the content from the venue in a way, so to be able to handle those issues. And also programmable space is a big trend, which means like when you acquire massive LED wall and whatever you equip for a show, you also want to be able to take over and personalize the content in a seasonal way.
Fantastic.
Now, what are the 4 pipelines? So the 4 pipelines is more like a framework that I've been cultivating internally at Moment Factory to better map our reality, explain it to others, and drive our actions. So I'm going to share it with you today. Again, we'll explore that together. So one of the major Moment Factory advantage is that we have all these 4 pipelines, like those different expertise into one single roof. The first pipeline, we call that the multimedia content. So this is where you have like 3D assets, video content, music, and lighting sequence. So it's pretty similar to CG animation, to the difference of mega canvas. In music, we tend to have like lots of different tracks, like for up to 120, something like this or more. And also the fact that we have to deal with lighting sequence that are going to drive actual spots, physical spot, and that are going to have a high impact on the physical space, which is the second pipeline. We call that Sino for short, like for scenography, which is kind of similar to an architecture studio. So in that box, we put everything that is physical, tangible, signature, decor, mechanicals. Then you have the system. And this is where you build the engine for your cinema. It's kind of similar to IT, but also there is a big AV part. So all the projectors, LED wall, physical lights. The IT infrastructure tends to be also bigger and bigger. It looks more and more like a data centers, and it combines like a powerful networks for all your data feeds, media feeds, control feeds. And we also include in the systems like the commercial off-the-shelf software and also the Moment Factory software suite that you install, including the OS and everything. So the full IT stack in a way. And the last is software development, which is similar to maybe gaming industry. So basically you take 3D assets from the content pipeline and you weave them with game logic, if I oversimplify it. But we also do mobile development, like creating UIs for the spectators to navigate the installations. And we also create custom backends for scoreboards or to control our AV equipment. And all that software stack needs to run 24/7 on site. And it's part of the spectator experience. So here is what roughly contains each pipeline. And I prepared a couple of example projects so you can maybe better understand how they are activated. The first is Singapore Terminal 2. On the right-hand side, you have this little diagram that the higher the dot, the more involved is the pipeline on the project. This project was made of two zones. One was more concentrated on pure CG content, and the other was more interactive. So I'm talking mainly about this zone, the waterfall zone. So definitely the main focus here was content. We had a high-end waterfall simulation. System was by others, no interaction involved. And most of the architecture was by the design studio office. Second example would be Aura. So you see how the small diagram moves. So it certainly moves a lot on the system side, because for these Auras here, we designed the full system, including the projection system and the operating system that drives it. So it's like, it's installed in every Aura. We have 4 of them in operation. And also there is an important software aspect, because we have a chapter that is interactive. And on the Sino side, it requires to capture the space with a really high level of precision. So you need to scan the place, make some retopology and everything so you can properly map the content. And the last, which kind of activates everything, is Real Madrid games. So one of the most demanding and like challenging all the pipelines. Where we transformed the Real de Madrid stadium corridors into a multi-sensory environment. Through a journey where you create your avatar with an app, then you're uniquely identified with a RFID wristband, and you can play an interactive game to reach the top of the scoreboard. Of course, lots of software involved. So the game themselves, but also how do you weave all the games into a user journey with scores and everything. So a unique identifier and everything. Full system design, commissioning, operation. full Seno design, total transformation of those corridors with custom signage and also custom props such as those scanning stations. So hope it helped you to map those 4 pipelines. Now you have a better understanding of the 4 pipelines framework. Let's take a look at the problem. If we had the temporal dimension, how these channels collaborate over time. So these pipelines are not fully into silo, of course, and their collision is necessary at many steps in the process to deliver a final experience. First interesting fact for me is they really correspond to different technical disciplines and jargon. Just if we take a look about the units. So the Seno, scenography, they're going to talk in kilograms or millimeters, or sometimes imperial. The multimedia content, they're going to probably talk in the default unit of their DCC, or in polygon or pixels. The system people, they like to talk about pixels as well, but they convert that into terabytes, megabyte per second, to correctly slide the streams. It also talks in watts. And the devs, they argue a lot with the system people about milliseconds and latency. Another thing that stands out is the project management culture. I mean by that the waterfall versus agile. So Seno in this spectrum is really on one hand of the spectrum. Like there is not much agility when you have at some point to pour concrete in the venue. So you need to be really well prepared. So it's more like a waterfall process. At the other side of the spectrum, you have the dev, pretty agile. I try to fight hard for them not to change code at the very last time. And the MMC is somewhat agile, MMC, multimedia content, sorry. They are somewhat agile, but until the fifth re-render, because that's one of the key metrics that's going to make them not agile in a way. And for the system, it's kind of in between. Like it starts really in a waterfall fashion. You need to correctly size your system, like order it. And then when you receive your hardware, you start to delve into the more software world. So the end of the path is more agile, I would say. And how well you succeed to streamline this process is going to really impact the quality, cost, and delay of the final project. Let's take a look at the tool chain. So here is a sample of the suite of tools that we use almost every day. We can have a logo quiz at question time if you want. So there definitely it's not a lack of tools. You probably know that, like this abundance of every tool you can think of. Each of them can definitely solve a problem on an individual or team level, but their introduction into the pipeline really have a big ripple effect. So, whoops. So if you have issues here, for instance, in that quarter for multimedia content, let's say you have a new DCC, you probably know the problem. Like a new DCC comes in, it's cool, it's fresh, people start to use them, like use it, but then it creates a new technical debt. You have to also support that in shotgun. You also have to support that in the render farm. You maybe have to hook that to the business intelligence of your company. So it's not just about the tool, it's about the ripple effect that it creates. So it's, in a way, for us, a 4x1 pipeline problem, because you multiply that by those 4 kingdoms. And so you have to apply the same type of rules to all that. Another example I could give, like in scenography, because you also tend to work with external firms, you have to support part of your contractor's tool chain, which means even if we are centered around Vectorworks or AutoCAD, Revit has to be in a landscape in a way, because that's how we receive materials from the outside. So the couple of actionable items to solve this, the fact that we have that many tools, is, of course, you can rationalize, can promote some of them, let other go. You can also work in between the tools, like by thinking about how to make them interoperable. So exploring open formats, OpenUSD or BIM. And then once you have those interoperable formats, you can focus on the fundamentals, which is where do you store, how do you version, how do you archive, how do you exchange data. So the last I'm interested in as well when I talk about this framework is to take a look at the gaps between the pipeline. And I think also it's something that is truly part of the DNA of Moment Factory, like managing those voids in a way. For instance, like the pixel space is at the boundary between multimedia content and Sino. So it's the interface between physical space and the content, how you're going to unwrap the pixel into space. And you can understand that any change from one side is going to affect the other. Or connected objects, for instance, between Seno and system, because you have to build the props and you have to fit the system in, like embed systems. The first thing that it raises is who is responsible for what. There is a lot of gray zone to cover. So if we talk about our people and take a look at multimedia content, even if you hire top tier CG soup, they often face a steep learning curve, like to fit in this new paradigm. So we definitely struggle to integrate industry top talents into this LB reality. And it's also valid for gaming industry people coming into software development here, or IT specialists coming to systems. They have to deal with AV and other challenges. So what we learn is you really stand a better chance if your fresh hires can at least understand 2 or even 3 of these pipelines. So you need a hybrid casting, you need creative technologies, creative developer, this type of casting. And let's just dig a little bit more on those voids. How one affect the other is really interesting also to take a look at. Like, for instance, the pixel space. So if you take an aura show, you have to scan precisely in the first place, but the venue, so you can decide of the pixel space, how you're going to project things in the environment. There is also an overlap with the system a little bit, because how you place projector is going to also change the magnitude of zone where you can have content on. And this needs to be really locked in time at a precise point, so that you can start the production, and any change over the course can greatly affect the final result. Or another example is sometimes we do build props where we project onto. So you do that, everything is set on plan. You create the content with a 3D based on a 3D model that does not yet exist. But sometimes once it's built, there are some tolerance, which means the final object is not exactly as planned. So you need strategies to adapt the content eventually on site or get prepared on the multimedia content side to have like safe margins. You may have noticed that there was another gap in this pipeline donut. So why the gap is, remember at the beginning, I was telling you about the fact that we don't have any review room. The site is unique, it's far, under construction or currently operating. So in the center of this donut is, for me, the simulation. And that's pretty important. And that's part of what's going to make everything stick together for me. I really prefer talking about simulation now rather than previs for two reasons. Pre, because it's not only about pre. You need to solve issue before the show, eventually during the show, after the show. So the pre and previs doesn't fit the vision, and vis also doesn't work because it's not only about visualizing. So the top part, yes, in a way, like you want to visualize your show. You want to visualize how your scenography is going to look. You want to have beautiful renders of the venue with the proper materials, reflections. Then from there, multimedia content people, they're going to want to see the content in context. Sometimes you have the multiple content zones. Sometimes the screen is not flat. And after this, Sino people are going to be really interested in seeing the effect of this content on the materials that they've built. So the reflection of the content on the floor and stuff like this. So the top part is the how it feels part. Now, for the bottom part, what you want to do, what you want to simulate is run the actual software in a complete staging environment that reflects the final system capacity. And you want to be able to connect everything to the simulation so that you can have a precise view of how the system feels and also how the system works under the top of the iceberg. So with this simulation object, you have a full spectrum of what the project is going to look, feel, and you can solve problem before and after the completion. So if we add the simulation, so you can understand that it only works great if the other are also working great. So how you build simulation is you have basically to sample what you know about the project at different point in time until you reach a final simulation that is stable and that is as similar as possible to the final product. Then you need to ask yourself about the level of fidelity that you want to have, like how close you want to be from the final, so that it's going to have a huge impact on the, when we build simulation, that's one of the first questions that we tend to ask. And the other is how much iteration we want. So if today we need to sample maybe 1, 2, 3 times, and it requires a lot of effort because there are friction, like you need to gather all the work from every department at once. Working on that iteration velocity and putting that to the minimum possible we are bringing you into some sort of continuous integration way of thinking that's going to be really powerful to just deliver better project, better quality. So my bet with this is more, you can solve locally challenges, but the simulation can act as sort of central clock that can sync all those pipelines together for them to kind of tick together. Simulation is not a solution on its own, but it's something that can generate organical change, because people involved in those pipelines are going to see the direct value of what they're producing, because they're going to gather around an object that is a representation of the project with a high level of fidelity. And that is basically my conclusion. I have a thank you slide that is kind of recap. My poster that can hang at the back of my office, and which is my my year in one shot. Thank you.
Arnaud, and you are also known for your presentation at GTC and SIGGRAPH around simulation and your use of USD and Omniverse back at the time. So, and if you come back to your slide, which is your playbook for the year, can you give us a sense of where you are into deploying that simulation layer, and what was the basis of the technology that you used for that?
For the simulation layer, we had to operate a transformation, like at least in the way of thinking. We went from the previous and we started, okay, let's talk about simulation now. So we invested on the two parts of the iceberg, revamping the engine. So it's beta on Unreal Engine right now, but also getting prepared to be able to simulate the bottom part. So investing in staging, virtualization, and so on and so on. And yeah, of course, as soon as you start building the center of the donut, you already need to think about the next steps, which is, hey, how do we go more data-driven? Like, what are the interoperable formats? So I have, as you mentioned, I have also a background exploring a lot with OpenUSD. We already thought about how we can and implemented things that you can find on our GitHub to connect the LBE environment to OpenUSD. So because it has a specific language in a way, so we wanted to have like some plugins to be able to connect that. And in parallel, I'm working in optimizing the toolchain so that we can like have less friction and be able to tunnel everything towards a simulation.
Okay. We have we're going to roll into the questions. So if you guys have questions, go to the Q&A tab and you can ask your questions. So first question came from Alan. It's actually connects to this topic. So you're creating this simulation layer. You said you want to use it for operation. So the question is about how you deal with monitoring experiences. Remote monitoring. What kind of a approach and technology do you use for that aspect of it?
This is multi-layer. So depending on the persona that I mentioned, like we have a part of this Hexagora suite that is called Control Center, and Control Center is responsible to give the really high level and to give the basic observability of the system. So you have like control panel dashboards, it collects metrics, it collects logs, so that it can watch the system while it's running. So you don't have to be there watching all the time. So that's part of the suite. And then you can have everything you imagine on the IT side to go to the next level, which is when you maybe escalate support to level 2. You need like remote control, like maybe SSH connection, VPN tunnels, and so on and so on. Hope it helps.
Okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. There is also a question about archival, and how you create. I would extend the question to how you create, a memory for the organization so that you can reuse things from projects to projects with so much of a pipeline complexity. How do you handle that?
Let me find a proper slide. Yeah. Maybe I'll take this slide.
Yeah, that's a question from Hans.
Because this is what you basically have to archive. Of course, like each of them has a different way of archiving. For that, you need to pay attention to your data. On the multimedia content side, there is ShotGrid involved, which means like everything is connected. All the material that generates the image, like whatever it is, the C40 projects, is connected to ShotGrid, and we also need to archive. So all of that is archived, including the 3D assets, and also you want to archive the final shots. When would you de-archive that? Is when you have to create a new show. For instance, in Aura, basically we're building a platform where all the archive from the last Aura is used on the next Aura to build a show. So it's you have to reuse that. Software development, we have a full bank that we call the MoFaLib, Moment Factory Library, of reusable component. Some are agnostic of the platform, so you can run them on Unreal, you can run them on Unity, or eventually in web. Some of them are like also maintained by Exagora team. So you have like this container I was talking about that is capable to collect logs in any of the software that runs on site. So we gather that into a Moment Factory library. On the system side, we're working hard right now to have a source of truth of all the systems that we have at Moment Factory. And yeah, in Sino also, we're moving towards having a centralized repository for all the architectural components that we have. I hope it answers the question.
Yeah, it did. You mentioned that one of the big issue in the industry is to move content from venues to venues, like you mentioned Aura, where you had a show with some similarities running in Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, 100 feet high. And then you move that show to a smaller cathedral in Quebec City. So how do you create that level of abstraction to make the content easier and less expensive to readapt from one topology to another topology of venues?
So that was part of the my innovation time previously. So what we did as an exercise, like collect multiple venues and put ourselves in the context of grabbing some content, like tailoring content for one venue and porting that as fast as possible. So we do that multiple times. It's not an easy exercise for even Moment Factory people, because most of the time, okay, the site is unique. We're going to tailor the content just for that. So we start to think about how do you port that. So we went into exploring generative content, of course. So you input the 3D model, you try to make sense of the semantic of the model, segmentation, automatic segmentation, like tagging of the model, like just to have a physical understanding of the space, so that you can have algorithm that can regenerate content specifically for that venue and save some artist time clicking and moving paths manually. And also you can think of that with a more 2D way, like just have extra content with safe margins that you can reposition into space. A multiple approach that you can do for that. Of course, when you change from project to project, you need to de-archive the material. You need to think about how you make it generic, and then you need to apply it to the new venue. Then you deliver the show, but our goal being to be able to have seasonal content and new chapters and new things coming into place. You definitely need those simulations to be able to take the simulation, work in the simulation, the show is still running, make new iterations, and then deliver straight. Continuous integration and continuous delivery.
Okay. So we have a question from the infamous anonymous attendee that's always there, every presentation I make. And today the question is about multimedia content, and your simulation. So I'll read you the question. So suppose a group is specifically tasked with just the content pipeline. I guess it could be like a vendor, an outsourcing vendor, CG vendor, and you have to collaborate with other team with the other pipeline. So how do you handle simulation? Because the MMC they need to preview, they need to see their content in the venue to validate their content. So how do you handle that pipeline?
You mean with an external vendor?
Eventually, or a group, or an internal group. How do the multimedia people, the multimedia content people, your CG guys, they depend more than the rest on that simulation to anticipate integration problems and all those things. So how do you serve them?
So one of the pillar of that simulation project is the accessibility. So in terms of the portal itself, and also in terms of means. So we have invested in building rooms here. So you can kind of service simulation, like you have VR headsets and stuff. But also
for clarity, you're using VR, a lot of simulation is in VR using Unreal Engine, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Meaning what we do is not flat. You need to be, there is this body scale thing, which requires to feel the immersion, like you have screens behind you, above your head, whatever. So you need to be able to feel the scale of it. So we have several VR headsets and room that we maintain. We develop accessibility with like CI/CD pipeline, which means like new simulation is ready, it's already in the room. We develop also links with shot grids. So you have all the review suite in shot grids, meaning we consider simulation as just another way of reviewing the content. So you can link to the review process in ShotGrid and push to VR room instead. And also we try to not forget about the people that don't either like VR or just have Macs, are remote, or may eventually customers. And we work on a platform as well to bring like web streaming on this platform.
Yeah, I think it's an important question because we on the Aura project, I know that. So usually when you do integration, you start throwing your renderings to the walls, and you have those placement issues, you have color issues, and you have this integration period that that becomes very, very stressful because you need to re-render a lot of content. And I think in the case of Aura, I've heard you guys saying that it was kind of the first time in the history of Moments Factory where the integration was finished, before the days that were allocated, because thanks to the use of that simulation engine, a lot of the issues were caught ahead of time in Montreal in VR and not discovered, in the cathedral in San Francisco. Can you confirm that rumor?
I mean, it's so first, when you compare that to the cinema, like the color pipeline is not as advanced. So the standards are not there. And if you talk about a cathedral, sometimes you arrive on site and it's marble, it's gray, or it's a bit like yellowish. So which means it can alter a lot either the color or the material can alter a lot the content, which can eventually provoke re-render. We used to capture the space to a certain level of fidelity, like just scanning maybe the topology. We tend more and more to capture as much as possible the color, the materials, and everything, so that we can simulate also the effect on the projection and the effect of reflection and so on and so on. So we can avoid having surprise. But yeah, the full pipeline is not like certainly on custom project is even more difficult because like it's not, you don't have any full control on every part and bits of the system. Up to the pixel on the LED wall. Maybe 5 to 6 years ago, it was not even possible to have a precise information about the color space of the LED walls. It tends to be better and better with the XR stage and stuff because it reached the cinema industry, so they're pretty tight about color spaces. But yeah, that's quite a challenge.
Does the proliferation of LED panels versus, projectors tend to be very forgiving in terms of color space, does the proliferation of LED panels change your pipeline in terms of color management?
Yeah, I guess as soon as you project, you have a lot of stuff that come into play, which is the surface you're projecting on. So if you control the screen, then you can be in a cinema way. But we tend to explode that into space. We're not going to project on screen. If we have a screen, we're going to go LED walls. So it is really to be better and better. Like bit depths increase, like they're more precise about the color space. So right now, it can be really accurate on the LED walls, but on the projection side, you still gonna have this thing about where you're projecting on.
Okay, we'll move to another question from Michael Arnaud.
Yes.
Michael's working on a project called Open Studio Landscapes, which is aimed towards, bringing a flexible infrastructure.
I think he contacted me on LinkedIn, Michael.
Probably, yeah.
I need to take a look at Open Studio Landscapes.
Okay. So the purpose of Open Studio Landscape is to swap production systems within pipelines, and how you smooth that. How can adjust your production environment to new tools. I think you touched on it. And like you want to add a new piece of software, a new piece of infrastructure. So how you handle that, and maybe talk about how you look at the data, the underlying data management for the pipeline. So
can you rephrase that? I missed part of it.
Okay. Well, so Michael's working on Open Studio Landscapes. How you do handle those change of tools. I know you touched it a bit during the presentation. So suppose you want to integrate a new DCC.
Sorry, trying to pop back this. How do we manage a change of tools? So today, we're definitely trying to take control over what's ingressing the system. And I guess it has a lot to do with change management. So you need to educate people about the ripple effect. And it really depends on the type of project we're doing. In the event industry, it's kind of door open for new tools. This is where we want to make crash tests, where we want to explore new tools, new fashion, new way of doing stuff. But for longer term pipelines, such as like Aura, where we want to build a rationalized pipeline, we tend to put more control now. Like you don't want to avoid changing on the system side, the switch brand every time you do a new Aura, because you're going to lose the automation script that you did to just take the information from your source of truth of system and just ingest that into the system. So we tend to lock this control in a different way regarding the projects. You need to educate people, to communicate, to be vocal about this, and eventually to also consider killing. Yeah, that is a bad word here, like to kill a software, but some of the software, or just yeah, connecting the dots.
Yeah, it's true. You come from a world of bespoke projects when freelancers come with their own tools, and now starting to evolve into a more structured production pipeline, where you want to be able to repeat shows from venues to venues. So it's the question I wanted to tag along is around data interoperability. Across those 4 pipelines. How do you, and I know you talked extensively about USD in the past. So what is your thinking around trying to create, some sort of share, at least, share data model or share elements between all of those pipelines? How do you think about
that? So we already publicly made some efforts in this direction. The first thing was, okay, what's there in the industry? So we looked outside. Okay, OpenUSD is there now. OpenUSD is big in the multimedia content pipeline, but it's really nothing in scenography. Like they all talk about BIM. So you look outside, say, okay, there is OpenUSD, there is BIM, there is this and that. Then we looked inside and say, okay, what is really specific to what we do? And we started to isolate a couple of open standards that are coming in. So MPCDI is something that represents projectors, for instance. Maybe 2-3 years ago, the emergence of GDTF, General Device Type Format, and MVR covers all the lighting rigs. So they have all the definition of the object in the lighting rigs, all their position, and also all the parameters that are you can use to control the lights, and also the physical like scattering. So they have all this. And I guess 2 days ago, I don't remember the name of the standard, there was a similar approach in the sound engineering industry. So they started to announce that, they're going to be a speaker model that is going to be shared across the industry. So you can have like interchange with contractors or your simulation. Then you can have like a single data model. So the first thing we did like maybe 2 years ago was, how do we connect up an USD with those models that are part of our industry? And on the other hand, we were like, okay, what is specific to Moment Factory also? What are the metadata that we need to manipulate? And we started designing at the top of USD a huge set of metadata that where we can tag every object and link them together in our language, so that we can like use OpenUSD, that layer of metadata, plus external links towards other standards to have some sort of common language.
Okay, fantastic. So there is hope around USD and using it as an aggregation hub. That
I still have hope.
Yeah. I have a few more questions that came in. So one from Alan is about accessibility, for your physical accessibility for the experience. I know it's something that Moment Factory thinks a lot about, and making sure that everybody can enjoy the shows, especially from an accessibility, wheelchair, etc. Can you think of anything specific at the software level that you implement to make client-facing interaction more accessible for people who need it?
It's fun that you say that, because I think it's today we have a UX workshop in the black box. The black box is the place where we can, when the simulation is not enough, we have a big space where we can experiment a fragment of the system. Like we can take a sample of the wall color, project on it, and see how it looks. And I think it's today or maybe this week. We are partnering with an association based in Montreal, I think. And they're bringing disabled people in the space, and they're going to play are augmenting the games, I think, and just we're gonna have like all our UX designer participating the workshop to take some comments and to improve to be fully compliant. They already made efforts, but we are really conscious about, yeah, there is still a lot of work to do to ensure that those augmented games are fully compatible with, yeah, fully accessible to everyone. Yeah, go ahead.
We have 1 minute left, and I have 2 more questions for you. Okay. The first one from Alan as well. Is there any upcoming technology or hardware, open source, or anything that you are excited about?
Yesterday I was talking with someone about Speckle.
Oh yes.
So I already talked with you about that. Pretty excited about around this one because there is an open source chapter in it, and also it could solve probably part of the Sino aspect that we can have. So if you are a big architecture firm, you're gonna embrace Revit, like take the full stack. But we need some sort of interchange to have all our 3D models align with each other. So I guess I'm really excited to try Speckle.
Okay. Last question from Irina. Hopefully, so it's a 2-in-1 for the last one. Irina wants to know what's your development timeline for your projects, and you know, what's the biggest challenges you're navigating today? Especially the other question is, did you come across some surprisingly simple solution to help some of those very hard problems? So first around the timeline, and second about how you go about, figuring out simple ways to solve hard problems.
Yeah, definitely my timeline is about promoting simulation first, working on the best engine as possible. So that's due yesterday. Why am I? Sorry?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Now, why am I talking about Speckle? Because I envision the next step, which is, hey, okay, how are we going to collect those data in the best way possible? And I guess definitely what I learned, like moving from innovation or system design to pipeline, is not technical. It's just the human in the loop, and the fact that change management is, for me, the giant wall I'm facing, basically. So I got to train myself not only on tech, but just to understand like how people work, how we can change things, and that's a big part of my job right now.
Understood. All right. Well, that's going to be all for the question, all the time we have today. I want to remind you that there will be 2 additional sessions on this topic in May. The first session is on May 5th with Jonathan Gagnon from Pitch Black Studios and Andrew Lazaroff from Rockwell Labs about research and development strategies for experiential pipelines. And the other one is going to be on May 28th. So mark your calendar, the future of experiential services, with our good friend Philip Geller and the very famous Lionel O'Hagan from Journey. So don't miss those events. Thank you for being there today with us and the Pipeline Conference. Thank you, the Pipeline Conference, for hosting those events and hosting us. Thank you for all of you for attending, and we'll be seeing you around in the industry. Thank you, and have a good day, everybody.